name's Jira and I'm back with another story. Now today's story is a missing persons case for Alexis Murphy. Before I get into the story, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please share it. Now this story takes place on August 3rd, 2013. Alexis Murphy was about 17 years old, living in Shipman, Virginia. Earlier that day, her mom had given her some money to get her hair done for her senior pictures. That day, Alexis posted on Twitter that she was headed to Lynchburg to get her hair done. So Alexis left the home on her way to get her hair done. Now this was on a Saturday, August 3rd, 2013. Early Sunday morning, Alexis's grandmother realized that Alexis had not come home. She had missed her midnight curfew, and that was unlike her. So her grandmother contacted her mother contacted her father, and her father instructed them to call the police. Her father said he was trying not to panic, but he had all types of things running through his head, as you would if you're not sure what happened to your child. She wasn't returning any text messages, she wasn't answering her phone, so he was trying to keep calm for the family, but he said on the inside he was really panicked. So they called the police. The local sheriff's office was notified, and they started to search for Alexis. Alexis had a really big social media following. I believe she had about 12,000 friends. So a lot of her social media friends actually came out and helped to search for Alexis. By that evening, they had helicopters out. They had people on the ground searching for Alexis in the area around her home. And they also had helicopters flying over with spotlights during the night, trying to find Alexis, trying to find the car. Alexis had taken her father's car, so of course they reported the car missing as well. Now 3 days went by and no one had heard from Alexis and no one had seen her. There had been no sightings of Alexis at all until her father's car was spotted in a movie theater parking lot in Charlottesville. Now they checked the surveillance cameras and they caught the car on camera at about 10:30 pulling into the parking lot. They did see a man get out of the car. The footage was so grainy, they really couldn't tell what he looked like. They couldn't get a good description of him at all. So investigators knew that local teenagers would hang out at this Liberty gas station in Lovingston. So they checked out the gas station, they looked at the footage, and they did see Alexis getting gas at that gas station on the day that she went missing. They checked the footage from the inside. They saw her come in, she purchased some gas and maybe something else, and she walked out. They also noticed that a man held the door for her as she walked out of the gas station. And the only reason they really paid any attention to him was because he had a really large tattoo on his neck. So they kind of took note of him. They saw him go out of the gas station too. They saw what type of car he went to. It was a huge camouflage Suburban. Now they said that the interaction with Alexis and this unidentified man wasn't really anything suspicious. He held the door for her. She walked in or out of the door, and that was it. Now, while local authorities were looking at security cameras, the FBI started to try to locate her cell phone. They realized that her cell phone was pinging on the tower really close to the gas station. It was only about a mile away, so they went to search that area. When they got to the area, it was a large property. There was an abandoned house on the property, and then there was a camper. So they get out, they go to look around, and they notice the camouflage Suburban on the property. They start looking around a little more, and a man comes out of the camper that was on the property. And that man, his name was Randy Taylor. He was 48 years old at the time. Now, as the man approached the investigators, of course, they see the same Suburban that they saw at the gas station, and they realize that the man is the same man that held the door for Alexis in the gas station. They noticed that tattoo that he had on his neck. So Randy Taylor invites investigators into his camper to talk to him about the case that they were on. When they got into the camper, an investigator noticed a diamond stud on the floor, and they began to look around a little more while they spoke to Randy. As they walked around, they noticed a broken fingernail on the floor and a long black hair on one of Randy's pillows. So they took the fingernail, the diamond stud, and the hair back for DNA testing. As they're waiting for the test to come back, they look at security camera footage from other stores and from that gas station on the outside. And they notice Randy Taylor's Suburban driving down the street, and they see Alexis's car coming down the street not too long after him, going in the same direction. So DNA from the diamond stud, the broken fingernail, and the hair came back, and the DNA matched Alexis Murphy. Investigators confronted Randy with this information, letting him know that DNA did match Alexis. But Randy denied doing anything to Alexis or abducting her or anything of that nature. He denied having anything to do with Alexis being missing. He said he had seen Alexis before, that she came to his camper with a large black man with dreadlocks, that they came over to look for drugs. They had a few beers while they were there, and he said that Alexis left with this man and she was smiling and happy when she left, and that he had not seen her since then. He told investigators that this man's name was Damian Bradley. Investigators found Mr. Bradley. They found Damian Bradley and spoke to him and asked him about his whereabouts on the day that Alexis went missing. And Damian had a solid alibi. He was actually in Alabama with his father at the time, so he was ruled out. Now, based on the information that investigators had at this time, they were pretty sure that Alexis did not leave Randy's camper smiling and happy like he said. With the DNA evidence that they had and his false statements about Damian Bradley, they felt they had enough to arrest him. So they arrested Randy Taylor for abduction. So they showed Randy's picture to Alexis's mother, and her mother didn't recognize his name, but she did recognize his picture. She said that he worked for a car lot that she had bought a used car from a few months before that. So detectives began asking around town about Randy Taylor. They were told by the gas station employees that Randy made everyone feel pretty uncomfortable most of the time. They said he would just come to the gas station, back his Suburban into one of the parking spaces, and sit there for hours and just watch people. And they suspected that he was watching the teenage girls that were there hanging out. They also got a call from a clerk at a porn shop. He stated that about 45 minutes before Randy Taylor and Alexis were seen on that footage in the gas station, that Randy was in the porn shop purchasing 2 pornographic videos. So with that information, police deduced that this was a sexually motivated crime. They were able to get a search warrant to go back to the property and continue looking for evidence. They went back to Randy's camper and they found, under his couch, they found a balled up t-shirt. It had a blood stain on it. It had a few hair extensions and 2 fake eyelashes. Now, the detectives noted that this t-shirt that they found under Randy's couch, it was the same shirt that he was pictured in the security camera footage from the day Alexis went missing. Now, remember I said there was an abandoned home on that property. So they also went into the abandoned home to look around. When they went into this home, they found a scrapbook full of pornographic pictures. And on the pictures, Randy had either cut the faces of the women out of the pictures, and he taped another face onto the picture. And the face he taped onto the picture was a picture of one of his co-workers' daughters. So he had filled up this scrapbook full of pornographic pictures and taped her picture over the faces of the models in the pictures. So detectives knew that he had done something with Alexis or Alexis's body, but they couldn't figure out where she was. So they decided to continue looking for her cell phone. They hadn't found her cell phone yet, so they thought her cell phone may be with her. So they actually brought out canines that were able to detect cell phones. And I didn't even know they had anything like this, but they took canines. They took the canines to the property, and within 15 feet of the property, the canines were able to find Alexis's iPhone, and it was all smashed and cracked. So at this point, Randy was still locked up. He was still incarcerated and professing his innocence. He swore that he had nothing to do with Alexis going missing. He said the last time he saw her, she was happy and smiling and leaving with Damian Bradley, although Damian had already been ruled out because of his alibi. Now, there were some other girls missing from the area. There was Morgan Harrington, Samantha Clark, and Hannah Graham. They were all missing from the Charlottesville area. Detectives were trying to figure out whether these cases were all linked, and if Randy had done something to Alexis, maybe he had something to do with these other 3 abductions. So 5 months had gone by and they still had not found Alexis, and Randy Taylor was still professing his innocence. So the DA, he decided that he wanted to go forward with a murder charge against Randy. Even though there was no body, they didn't find any more blood other than the blood on that t-shirt. And I couldn't find any information about how much blood was on the t-shirt, but the DA wanted to move forward with murder, even though they didn't have a body. So he started to research cases on murder trials without a body, and there were only 2 trials in Virginia without a body at that point. Now, the DA said that he wanted to push for this murder charge because he felt that it wasn't fair for Randy Taylor or any other murderer to be rewarded for successfully hiding a body. So he was going to move forward with murder. So Randy Taylor was charged with Alexis's murder. He said that if Randy had killed Alexis, whether her body was found or not, he needed to be held accountable for that. They went forward with the murder trial, and after 5 days of testimony, Randy Taylor was found guilty of first-degree murder and abduction with intent to defile, and he was given 2 life sentences. Now, 2 months after Randy's sentencing, a serial killer named Jesse Matthew came onto the scene. Now, he was a person of interest in 2 missing persons cases, and those were the cases of Morgan Harrington and Hannah Graham. So Jesse was charged with their abduction and murders. Now, both Morgan and Hannah had gone missing in the same area that Alexis had gone missing, and this was a little bit unsettling for some of the investigators because Jesse Matthews was also a large black man with locks, just like Randy had described previously. So they started to look into Jesse to see if they could link him to Alexis's murder. Although they believed Randy was guilty, they didn't want Jesse to get away with Alexis's murder if he had something to do with it. So they decided, they spoke to Jesse's lawyer, they got Jesse's DNA, and they tested it against the DNA that they found in Randy's camper. Now, in doing this, Jesse was ruled out. His DNA was not in the camper anywhere, inside or outside. Now, based on the DNA information, investigators do not believe Jesse Matthews had anything to do with the disappearance and murder of Alexis Murphy. Now, at this point, Randy Taylor has already been tried and convicted of the murder and abduction of Alexis. He was given 2 life sentences. Now he wanted to make a deal. He told the DA that he would tell them where the body was if they would reduce his sentence from 2 life sentences down to 20 years. So they discussed this with the family and the DA, and they both decided that they were not going to take the deal. They said that if he killed Alexis, that he needed to pay for that. Randy was 48 at the time he abducted and murdered Alexis, so he would be about 68 when he got out, and really, that's not enough time. He could have continued on abducting and murdering girls at 68 years old. So her family decided that although they wanted her body back, they wanted to give her a proper burial, a proper service, and have some place to go and visit her, that it wasn't worth him getting out early and possibly doing this to another family. So they decided he deserved those 2 life sentences, and whether they got Alexis back or not, he was going to stay in prison. Now remember, I said there were 3 other girls that were missing besides Alexis. That was Morgan, Samantha, and Hannah. Samantha Clark, one of those 3 girls, they believed that Randy Taylor had something to do with her abduction and murder as well, because Randy knew Samantha, and he was actually the last person to try to contact Samantha before she went missing. They lived in the same trailer park. So I believe that case is still under investigation. I don't believe that they've charged him with her murder yet, but if they do and he's found guilty, he could face the death penalty. Now, Jesse Matthew, the serial killer, he was convicted of Morgan and Hannah's murders, abduction and murders, and he was sentenced to 4 life sentences. So he's serving that sentence right now. So Alexis was abducted in broad daylight. Randy never gave any details as to exactly what happened, so no one knows how she got into Randy's camper, but it happened in broad daylight. There were lots of people out, and no one saw what happened. They are still looking for Alexis's body. They still want to bring her home. They're just not willing to make a deal with Randy to do that. So if you have any information on where Alexis could possibly be, where Randy could have possibly taken Alexis, please contact the authorities, and I'll leave the information in the description box. Please call the numbers I provided and give any information that you have, even the smallest thing, even something that you believe is small may help. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Randy? Do you think that the family and the DA should have made a deal with him and let his sentence be reduced so they could find Alexis's body? Me personally, I'm not sure what I would have done. It's kind of hard to say what you would do if you're not in that situation. But let me know what you think about the story. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please share it. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 10:15. Bye.